INFJs are often seen as thoughtful, mysterious, and deeply caring individuals. They notice things others miss. They feel things most people ignore. And they usually move through life in a quiet, reflective way that catches people off guard. But while many of their traits are admirable, they can also be difficult for others to understand, and sometimes even drive them a little crazy. The INFJ is the rarest personality type, and that shows in how they think and behave. Their emotions run deep, and their minds are constantly working even when they're silent. They can sense when something feels off in a room. They remember details from conversations others have forgotten, and they often make choices based on instinct instead of logic. To the INFJ, this all feels normal, but to the people around them, it can feel confusing, intense, or even frustrating. Not because the INFJ means to upset anyone, but because their way of seeing the world is so different. They live by feeling and intuition, not always by facts or social norms. And that difference, while powerful, can sometimes cause friction in everyday life. Relationships with INFJs, whether romantic, friendly, or professional, can be deeply meaningful. But they also come with moments of confusion, moments when someone asks, "Why did they react like that?" Or, "What are they thinking right now?" INFJs are complex, and they don't always explain themselves. That complexity is part of what makes them special, but it also leads to misunderstandings. Sometimes INFJs seem distant when they're just overwhelmed. Sometimes they stay silent when others want answers. And sometimes they expect more from people than those people are ready to give. This video isn't about criticizing the INFJ, it's about understanding them. It's about shining light on 6 specific ways that INFJs, without meaning to, can drive others crazy. These traits are real. They come from a place of depth, not drama. But if not understood, they can create tension and distance. So if you're an INFJ, this might help you better understand how others see you. And if you care about someone who is an INFJ, this could help you connect with them more deeply and with more patience. Let's take a closer look at what makes the INFJ both fascinating and at times frustrating. Trait 1. Overanalyzing social interactions. One of the fastest ways INFJs drive others crazy is by overanalyzing conversations, facial expressions, and body language. To them, nothing is ever just a moment. Everything has meaning. A pause, a change in tone, a missed text reply, all of it gets examined. After even a simple conversation, an INFJ might replay it in their mind. They'll wonder, did I say too much? Or, did their voice shift when I brought that up? They might even second-guess a facial expression that lasted only a second. This isn't something they do on purpose. Their minds are wired to pick up patterns and emotional signals. But to the other person, it can feel like being put under a microscope. Friends and partners may start to feel like they're always being read. They might think, "Why are you looking for problems that aren't there?" Or, "Why can't you just take what I said at face value?" The INFJ's overanalysis doesn't come from mistrust. It comes from caution. Most INFJs have been emotionally hurt in the past. They have experienced betrayal or manipulation. And now, even in safe spaces, their mind stays alert. They're not trying to judge. They're trying to protect themselves. The problem is, people feel the weight of that scrutiny. Even if the INFJ says nothing, their energy changes. They may go quiet or seem distracted, but inside, they're reviewing everything that just happened. Others can sense that distance, but they don't always know what caused it. This can cause confusion or even defensiveness. Someone might ask, "What's wrong?" And the INFJ won't have a clear answer, because technically nothing happened. They're just processing. But to the other person, it feels like something is definitely off. In romantic relationships, this trait can feel especially intense. INFJs want emotional honesty, and they will search for it even in small signs. If a partner says something that doesn't match their tone or body language, the INFJ notices. And instead of asking directly, they may retreat to think about it first, sometimes for days. This retreat can create distance. The other person may have no idea they said or did something that triggered deep thought, and they may feel frustrated by the sudden coldness or emotional wall. It can also make conflict feel complicated. While others want to address issues quickly, INFJs need time. They need to break down what they felt, why they felt it, and whether or not it matches reality. This slows communication and can make others feel emotionally blocked out. This habit of deep internal analysis is part of what makes INFJs wise. They don't rush into things. They consider emotions, motives, and long-term outcomes. But it also means they often get caught in loops of thought, trying to find meaning where there may be none. To outsiders, it feels like too much. But for INFJs, it's how they make sense of the world. Unfortunately, it can also drive the people closest to them absolutely crazy, especially when they don't explain what's going on. Trait 2, avoidance of small talk. INFJs don't like small talk. They don't enjoy casual banter, light topics, or saying things just to fill silence. While most people are fine with talking about the weather, TV shows, or what they had for lunch, INFJs are sitting there thinking, what's the point? This trait can make them come off as standoffish or even rude in social situations. At group events or casual hangouts, they may go quiet, not because they're shy, but because the conversations feel meaningless. They want connection, not chatter. They want depth, not filler. This is confusing to others. People may think the INFJ is bored, cold, or just doesn't like them. In truth, the INFJ might like them a lot. They just can't fake interest in a conversation that feels empty. They crave meaningful connection, and when it's missing, they mentally check out. This preference for depth can create tension in everyday life. Coworkers might feel slighted when INFJs don't engage in lunchroom chat. Acquaintances might see them as distant. Even friends might wonder why they don't get more energy from the INFJ unless the topic is something deep or emotional. INFJs would rather talk about purpose, healing, relationships, fears, or the meaning of life than comment on someone's weekend plans. And while that's powerful in close relationships, it can make casual ones feel awkward. In dating, this trait often creates a problem early on. First dates usually involve light topics, and INFJs hate that phase. They don't want to talk about where you went to college or what your favorite color is. They want to know how you think, what you dream about, what breaks your heart. To others, this can feel intense, or too much, too soon. But INFJs don't do shallow. If they can't connect with someone emotionally, they struggle to stay interested. And that can be frustrating for people who enjoy a slower, lighter start to relationships. Even in long-term friendships, this trait shows up. INFJs may get bored with routine conversations. They want emotional growth, evolving dialogue, and space to explore ideas. When things stay on the surface, they quietly pull away. They're not trying to be difficult. They just value depth. And when it's missing, they feel disconnected, even if everyone else is having a great time. Trait 3. High sensitivity to criticism. INFJs care deeply about others, about their work, and about doing the right thing. But with that depth comes a high sensitivity to criticism. Even the softest feedback can feel like a personal attack if not delivered carefully. And this sensitivity, while rooted in self-awareness, can drive others crazy. The issue isn't that INFJs don't want to improve. In fact, most are always working on themselves. The problem is how deeply they process words. A small comment about how they handled a situation or how they said something can spiral into hours of self-reflection and self-doubt. They don't just hear the words. They hear tone, intent, and emotion behind them. They ask, what did they really mean? Or, are they disappointed in me? And even if someone reassures them, the overthinking doesn't always stop. The INFJ might still replay the conversation, trying to figure out if they messed up or made someone feel bad. This kind of sensitivity makes others cautious. Friends or coworkers may feel like they have to walk on eggshells. They don't want to hurt the INFJ, so they avoid giving honest feedback. That creates tension. Problems don't get addressed, and relationships start to feel distant or fake. In romantic relationships, it can become even more difficult. A partner might bring up a concern, hoping to fix something small, and suddenly the INFJ pulls away. Not out of anger, but because they're hurt. They might go quiet, need space, or seem emotionally overwhelmed. To the other person, it feels like an overreaction. But to the INFJ, it feels like they failed. It touches something deep inside them, the part that wants to always be good, kind, and supportive. When they hear criticism, they often turn it inward. What's wrong with me? Why can't I do better? It's not about being defensive, it's about feeling responsible. This reaction can frustrate others. People want to be able to talk about issues openly. But if every critique leads to a deep emotional response, they may stop bringing things up altogether. Over time, this damages trust and communication. What INFJs need and often don't say is gentleness. If someone can bring up concerns with kindness and clarity, the INFJ will respond well. But when feedback feels harsh, rushed, or cold, it cuts deep. And that emotional bruise can take a while to heal. It's important to know that INFJs don't mean to make things difficult. They just feel everything more deeply. And when they care about someone, the thought of disappointing them is almost unbearable. But that level of sensitivity, if not managed well, can make honest conversations harder than they should be. Trait 4. Tendency to withdraw. When things get overwhelming, INFJs often pull back. They disappear from group chats. They stop responding to messages. They go quiet, not just for hours, but sometimes for days. And this sudden withdrawal can confuse and upset the people around them. From the outside, it feels like rejection. Friends wonder, did I do something wrong? Partners feel hurt or abandoned. Even co-workers may notice the shift and assume the INFJ is upset. But most of the time, this withdrawal isn't personal. It's emotional survival. INFJs take in a lot of information, people's feelings, energies, expectations, and conflicts. It builds up fast, and when it gets too loud inside, they need silence outside. That silence helps them recharge, reflect, and make sense of what they're feeling. But they rarely explain this need. They just go. And because they often don't want to burden others, they won't give warnings or updates. They assume people will understand, or they hope no one will notice. But people do notice, and without context, it can feel cold. This pattern can create stress in relationships. A partner may feel shut out. A friend may think they're being ignored. And because INFJs are slow to open up, it takes time before they explain what's really happening. By then, others may have already pulled back in response. This emotional distance can also create conflict. Someone may finally ask, "Why do you always disappear?" And the INFJ might not have an answer that makes sense to them. "I just needed space" doesn't always feel good enough to the person who felt abandoned. The irony is that INFJs often pull back because they care. They don't want to say something hurtful or fake connection when they're emotionally drained. They think stepping away is the kind thing to do. But without communication, it often feels like the opposite. This trait isn't about avoiding people. It's about protecting their energy. INFJs are introverts who need time alone to come back to themselves. But when that need isn't explained, it can make others feel pushed away. For INFJs, learning to say, "I need a little time, but I still care," can change everything. And for the people who love them, learning to give that space without taking it personally is key to keeping the relationship strong. Trait 5. Idealistic expectations. INFJ have a vision, not just for themselves, but for everyone around them. They believe in potential. They believe people can grow, change, and rise above their flaws. And while that's beautiful, it also creates a big problem: expectations. They often expect more from others than others are ready or willing to give. They believe people should be kind, thoughtful, honest, and self-aware. They believe in emotional depth and personal growth. But not everyone lives that way. And when reality doesn't match the INFJ's vision, frustration follows. This idealism can make INFJs hard to please. It's not that they're critical or demanding. It's that they see what could be and feel disappointed when people settle for less. They may grow distant from friends who stay shallow or relationships that never go deeper. They also hold themselves to high standards. They want to be good, reliable, and emotionally strong. But when they fall short, they beat themselves up. This internal pressure leaks into how they relate to others. Sometimes, without meaning to, they expect people to operate at the same emotional level they do. That kind of pressure can feel heavy. Partners may feel like they're never doing enough. Friends may feel like they're being silently judged. Even if the INFJ never says a word, people can sense the standard and feel like they're falling short. Over time, this creates distance. People start to avoid the INFJ's feedback. They may stop opening up or feel like they're not deep enough to stay close. And the INFJ, frustrated by what feels like disconnection, might not realize they're part of the reason. It's not that INFJs need to lower their values, but they do need to accept people where they are, not just where they could be. Growth takes time, and not everyone moves at the same pace. Real love, real friendship, is meeting people in the present, not just dreaming of their future. Trait 6. Reluctance to open up. INFJs feel deeply, but they rarely show everything they feel. They might be the best listener in the room, the one who makes everyone else feel safe and understood. But when it comes time for them to share their own emotions, they freeze, they pause, they hold back. This emotional privacy can drive others crazy, especially those who want to connect with the INFJ on a deeper level. It's confusing. How can someone be so open-hearted and so emotionally guarded at the same time? The truth is, INFJs are incredibly private. They don't open up easily because their inner world is so personal, so layered, and so intense. Letting someone in feels risky. It takes trust and a lot of time. Even in close relationships, INFJs may only show pieces of their inner life. They might talk around something emotional instead of naming it directly. Or they might listen for hours but avoid answering simple questions about themselves. To others, this feels like distance. It feels like rejection, even if it's not meant that way. Partners and friends may feel frustrated. Why won't they tell me what's wrong? Or, why do I feel so close to them, but still like I don't really know them? This emotional wall isn't built to push people away. It's built to protect what's most sacred. INFJs have likely been hurt before. When they shared their truth in the past, maybe it wasn't received with care. Maybe they were judged, dismissed, or ignored. So now they test people. They watch. They wait. They ask, will this person really listen? Before they say anything vulnerable. This cautious nature can make relationships feel one-sided. Others might feel like they're doing all the sharing. They might feel emotionally exposed while the INFJ stays quiet. And over time, that imbalance can create distance or even resentment. What the INFJ often doesn't realize is that withholding emotions can hurt others, even if it's not meant that way. People feel close when there's mutual trust. When one person opens up, they hope the other will too. But when INFJs stay closed off, it feels like they're keeping something important locked away. The challenge is, INFJs need emotional safety before they can share. But emotional safety often grows through openness. This creates a loop. They wait for safety before opening up. But openness is what helps build safety in the first place. Learning to let people in slowly, without needing a perfect moment or perfect person, is a skill INFJs benefit from. And the people who care about them need to show patience, not pressure. That combination, slow sharing, steady support, is what helps INFJs finally feel seen. INFJs are deep, emotional, and often misunderstood. They move through the world quietly, yet their impact runs deep. They don't mean to frustrate the people around them, but their complex inner world, emotional intensity, and need for space can make it hard for others to understand them. They overthink conversations and disappear when overwhelmed. They avoid small talk and expect emotional depth. They take things personally even when no offense is meant. They hold others and themselves to idealistic standards. And even when they care deeply, they don't always say it out loud. To the people in their lives, these habits can feel strange, distant, or even hurtful. But every one of these traits comes from a place of sensitivity, meaning, and deep emotional care. INFJs don't want to hurt anyone. In fact, they often hurt themselves trying not to. The key to loving or understanding an INFJ is patience. They need time to open up. They need space to recharge. They need people who won't take their quiet moments personally. And when those needs are met, they return that care with fierce loyalty, honesty, and emotional depth few people ever experience. For INFJs, it's important to remember that being complex doesn't mean being broken. Your intensity is a gift. Your thoughtfulness, your standards, your need for quiet, they all serve a purpose. But opening up, communicating clearly, and making space for others' needs too is part of building stronger connections. And for those who love an INFJ, know this: if they've let you in, it means they trust you more than words can say. Their silence isn't emptiness. It's a sign of thinking, of feeling, of growing. The INFJ may drive people crazy sometimes, but only because they're built to live and love in ways that run far beneath the surface.